Is there any research that finds that is able to link, let's say, online behavioral types on gaming platforms and correlate them to offline behavioral types? I mean, is there a sort of typology of specific extremist gamers, so to say, and what are the offline features? I mean, is there any research on that? I mean, I understand it must be very difficult to conduct this kind of research, but just wondering.
Oh, you're asking the holy grail question, right? Like, what's the online offline transmission link? The short answer is no one has a great answer for that. The longer answer is there's more data and evidence than we used to have. Julia Ebner and colleagues out of Oxford recently came up with their extremist hate speech terminology that tries to link online vocabulary to offline action. I mean, there's something in there. We've also kind of looked at a similar taxonomy around online hate speech and how that might link into offline practice.
Cultures, yeah.
Yeah, the cultural side is interesting. Violent, targeted misogyny and deeply misogynist communities seem to also link quite closely to support for violent extremism in online settings. So that type of particular violent targeted misogyny appears to potentially link to a higher propensity for offline behavior. Again, these are indicative findings. Other spaces that we think are really important to look at are the questions around exposure versus actual behavior, right? So for example, the highest rate of exposure to extremist content for our polling and polling from ADL is in Call of Duty. But Call of Duty is also one of the world's most popular first-person shooters. So just because there's a higher instance of exposure, does that necessarily mean that there's a higher likelihood of Call of Duty players engaging in offline violence? Hard to say. Again, is that just a correlation with exposure, or is there actually something more positive at play there? That being said, last point on this would be the types of cultures of gameplay I think do matter. Shaping more positive online environments inside of individual games and nudging player behavior to be less misogynistic, for example, or less bullying is both a good business practice. It keeps people from leaving the game, and it likely encourages more pro-social behavior that doesn't seek to exclude and target others on the basis of a protected identity characteristic. So I think there's ways to shape more positive online communities, but when it comes to that causal link between online behavior and offline engagement in violence or engagement in radicalization, no one has quite cracked that yet. Like there's some interesting indicative signs, but nothing perfect.